In lesson 2.9, we're going to be talking about the Richardson family. You're going to be learning to describe them. And although you've already heard this story to some extent broken up into parts or pieces of the previous lessons, this is one lesson where we're going to put the story or the description all together, and you'll hear about the Richardsons in detail. You'll also learn how to, or be practicing the formation of questions using interrogatives: who, how, what, where, why, when, how many, how much, and which. And you'll have to answer those questions to demonstrate your knowledge of the Richardson family. And finally, you'll be tested on your ability to speak as fluently and correctly as possible over a period of 2 minutes about a portion of the story at the end of this lesson. So let's begin first. Now, what I'm going to do in the first section is I'm going to tell you this, give you the description. I could say tell you the story. It's not much of a story. It's mainly a description about a family's life. So I want you simply to listen as I describe to you this family's life in great detail. This is the Richardson family. The Richardson family is an American family, but they live in France. John is the father of the family. John works at the university. He is an English teacher. Carol is obviously the mother of the family, and she stays home. She works at home. She takes care of the children. She washes dishes. She prepares meals. She washes the laundry. She spends time with and helps the children. They have 3 children. Kathy, or Catherine, she goes by both names, is 10 years old. And Catherine, because she's an American girl, she speaks English, and she must learn French. She needs to learn French at school. So she goes to school, and she is learning French. Michael is a little boy. He's 4 years old. He doesn't go to school. He stays home with his mother. He watches TV. He plays. He takes naps, even though he doesn't want to. And they also have a baby. The baby's name is John Jr., named after the father. And the baby is very little. He only sleeps, cries, and eats. He doesn't do much of anything else. They, of course, also have a dog. Well, Carol, that's the mother's name, Carol Richardson, she wakes up in the morning before anyone else, and she comes downstairs. After she wakes up, she comes downstairs, and she enters the bathroom. First thing she does is she washes her face, and she washes her hands. And then she enters, as you see right here, she enters the kitchen, and she prepares breakfast for the family. Now, the family sleeps. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, every day she gets up first and prepares breakfast, and the family sleeps. Well, after the family wakes up, they come downstairs. We could say they go downstairs, or they come downstairs. And they sit down at the table, and John reads the newspaper. The little girl, Kathy, she listens to music, and Michael plays. He plays with a train, you see right there. He plays with his train. They don't eat breakfast, and they don't talk to each other. They play, or they listen to to music, or they read the newspaper, but they don't really talk much. Well, John gets up. He leaves the table, and he goes upstairs and prepares to go to work. And in the meantime, the children stay at the table, but you can see that Carol is angry. She's angry because the children don't eat. They don't eat breakfast, and she says, eat breakfast. But they don't listen to their mother. They play, they listen to music, and Carol is angry. We also say Carol is mad. Okay. Well, John opens the door. He says goodbye, and he goes out. He goes to the car, and he takes the car. And by the way, he leaves at 7:15 in the morning. He leaves the house at 7:15, and he goes to work in the car. Carol doesn't leave. She stays at home, and she helps the children. She helps Kathy prepare to go to school. Well, then Kathy Kathy goes to school at about 8 o'clock, and Carol, she walks to school. She walks to school with Kathy, and so does Michael. Michael has his bicycle. He has a bicycle, and the baby sleeps in the stroller. After Kathy arrives at school, Kathy says, "Goodbye, Mama. Goodbye, Michael. Goodbye, John Jr." And she enters the school, and Carol and Michael, they don't return home. They don't return home. Michael wants to play. Now notice I said to play. He wants to play. Not he wants play. He wants to play. Now why do I say to? Remember when there are two verbs side by side. He wants to play. He likes to play. He needs to play. In each of those situations, you put the word to. Want, play. And right here in between, we put to. Wants to play. Okay? Wants to play, needs to play, likes to play. Okay. So in any case, Michael wants to play in the park. This is the park. So Michael plays on the structures in the park. And Carol waits. She waits for Michael, and she reads a book while Michael plays, and the baby, of course, sleeps in the stroller. After they leave the park, they go to the supermarket. Carol wants to buy. Notice that again. Wants, buy. Wants to buy. She wants to buy food for the family, so they go to the supermarket, and of course they walk. They don't take the car because John has the car. They walk to the supermarket. Well, Carol buys the food, and she has the baby in one arm. She has the baby in her arms, and she has the food in the other arm, and Carol already is tired. She is tired. She wants to return home. She wants to go home. But Michael doesn't want to go home. He wants to play, as usual. He's riding on a horse. This is a horse. And he wants to play on the horse. So Carol, again, waits for Michael. And finally, you see they leave the supermarket. They go out of the supermarket and they leave. But they don't go home. Michael wants to eat hamburgers. He wants to eat hamburgers. He doesn't want to eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. He wants hamburgers, and he wants to go to a restaurant. So Carol goes to a rather well-known restaurant. She goes to McDonald's with Michael, and Carol buys 2 hamburgers for Michael, and Michael eats quickly. He eats very quickly. He eats quickly. Carol, she buys only 1 hamburger. She doesn't like hamburgers, and she's not hungry. She eats slowly. She eats slowly. And she thinks. We'll put the hamburger down first. She thinks. She thinks about her home. She thinks about John. She thinks about the children. And she thinks about work. Carol is not happy. She is not happy. She is sad. She's sad. She doesn't like to stay home. She doesn't want to stay home and watch the children. She wants to go to work. She wants to work. She wants to work in a hospital. She wants to be a nurse. I'll explain more about that later. In any case, they leave the restaurant and they return home. And at home, Michael watches TV and Carol works. She cleans. This is clean. She cleans the apartment, or the house, I should say. She cleans the house, and Michael watches TV. Well, at about 2 o'clock, Carol says to Michael, "Michael, go upstairs and take a nap. Take a nap. Sleep, Take a nap." Michael is angry. Michael doesn't want to sleep. He wants to watch TV. But Carol says, Michael, go upstairs. So Michael goes upstairs, dutifully goes upstairs, and Michael sleeps with his bear. He sleeps. Okay? But Carol doesn't sleep, and she doesn't rest. She works. Specifically, she studies. She studies medicine. What's medicine? Medicine is what a doctor knows about. When he listens, for example, this is a stethoscope. He listens to the heart. Boom, 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 boom. Okay? A doctor maybe gives shots. I think it's more the nurse who gives the shots, but the doctor, gives shots. Okay? That's called medicine. It's when you take care, when you help a person with their body to stay healthy. That's medicine. So Carol studies medicine. She wants to be a nurse. She wants to work in a hospital. So she reads, she reads, she writes, she thinks, she studies. Well, at 5 o'clock, Carol and Michael walk to school, because in France you get out of school later at 5 o'clock, and they meet Kathy at the school, at the exit to the school, and Kathy is happy because school finishes. School finishes. And so Kathy and Michael and Carol and the baby go home. They walk home. But Kathy and Michael see a bakery. Oh, this is a bakery, and in France they're the best. Kathy, she wants some pain au chocolat, which is bread with chocolate. But Carol says, no, Kathy, no pain au chocolat. And Carol buys bread and gives them a piece of bread instead. It seems kind of cruel, but that's the way it is. When they arrive home, Kathy has a lot of homework. Kathy has a lot of homework, and Carol helps Kathy with her homework, and Michael watches Kathy do her homework. Well, at about 6 o'clock, John returns home. He arrives home. He enters the house, and Michael sees John, and Michael is happy. He's excited. He wants to play baseball with John. John doesn't want to play, as you can see in this next picture. John wants to sit down, and he wants to relax because John is tired after working all day long. He wants to read the newspaper. And Michael is, of course, this is the gesture you want. Michael is sad. Well, the family eats dinner, and after dinner, Kathy and Michael watch TV. That's the smallest TV I've seen in a long time. They watch TV, and Carol, who prepared dinner, Carol washes the dishes, and John goes upstairs to the office, and John works in his office. Carol doesn't go to the office. Carol, at about 8 o'clock, Carol goes to Kathy's room, and Carol reads a book to Kathy. Kathy listens and listens and sleeps. Well, Michael can't sleep. Michael doesn't sleep. He wants water. He wants some water. So Carol goes downstairs. She takes water. She takes a glass of water. She gets a glass of water. She comes upstairs, or she goes upstairs with the water. She gives the water to Michael, and Michael drinks, and Michael sleeps. I don't know what was in that water, but in any case, finally, Carol enters the office in the house, and Carol wants to talk to John. She has been with children all day, with Michael, with the baby, with Kathy, and she wants to talk to her husband. She wants to talk to her husband. John doesn't want to talk. He wants to work. He wants to talk on the telephone. He thinks, he writes, he reads, but he doesn't talk, and Carol is sad. There you go. That's the story. Let's see now in the next section if you can form questions about this description of the Richardson family and then answer your own questions as well. So in this section, you're going to be forming questions. You're going to say a question, as you can see by the instruction right here. You're going to say this question, and then you're going to click and listen to see if you formed it correctly. And then you're going to answer the question. And last of all, you'll click here to hear if you answered it in an appropriate way with more or less the same answer. Okay, here we go. Say this first. By the way, these questions deal with this picture right here. So look at the picture. Okay, go ahead and form the question. What is this question? Right. Where does the family live? Where does the family live, or where does the Richardson family live? Now let's talk about that first of all. The interrogatives: who, how, where, what, how many, etc., are going to be followed by either do, or if you're talking about a person, does. Okay? Do I, do you, but does he, does she? And so we'll say, where do or does the family? Now, which is it? Is it do or is it does? Okay, you might think that it's do because there are 5 people in the Richardson family: John, Carol, Michael, Kathy, and the baby. But a family is a single unit. We say the family in the singular, not families, for example, in the plural. 5 people, but one family. Okay, so we say does the family. So where does the family live? Go ahead and answer the question. Where does the family live? Right, the family lives, against lives, because the family is one unit, one group, one. The family lives in France. The family lives in France. Okay, number 2, form this question. Okay, again, we see where, and then is it do or does? Yeah, it's does because we're talking about one person, about John, talking about him. So where does John work? Where does John work? What's the answer? Right, John works at the university, or he works in a school if you prefer. Number 3, this is not where this time. Go ahead and form the question. Say the question. Go ahead. Okay. What does, because we're talking about one person, Carol, what does Carol do? What does Carol do? Does Carol work at the university? What's the answer? Okay, Carol works at home. She takes care of the children. She prepares meals. She washes the dishes. She washes the laundry. Carol works hard, but she works at home. Okay, now look at this picture. We're talking about this picture now. And number 4, what's this question? This, by the way, is kitchen, in case you've forgotten that word, kitchen. It's where you prepare food. What's the question? Okay, what does Carol do in the kitchen? What does Carol do in the kitchen? What does she do in the kitchen? Right, she prepares food or she prepares meals. Good. Number 5, what's the question? Okay, I think here we assume that we're not talking, oh, in the kitchen. What does John do? I think it's in the kitchen. So what does John do? What does John do? What does he do in the kitchen? Well, the answer is nothing. John doesn't. John doesn't, doesn't. He doesn't prepare food. He doesn't prepare meals. He doesn't help in the kitchen. In fact, when Carol prepares breakfast, he sleeps. Okay, next picture. Now the family has awakened. They come to the table. They come downstairs. They come downstairs, or they go downstairs. They sit down at the table. Okay, what's this question? Be careful. It's a negative question. So you're going to use don't or doesn't. Don't or doesn't. Go ahead. Okay, it's why. That's the interrogative. Why? Now we're talking about John, so that's does. Make it negative. Doesn't John talk? Why doesn't John talk? We mean at the table. Notice what he's doing here at the table. Why doesn't John talk? Right. He reads the newspaper. John reads the newspaper. Now, if you're an English teacher using this program to teach other people, you may be asking yourself, why isn't he saying he is reading the newspaper? We haven't studied the present progressive tense yet. We're keeping things simple, the present simple. He reads the newspaper. We're coming to the present progressive very soon. Okay, next, what's this question here? Okay, why? Again, it's do or does. Which is it, do or does? All right, we're talking about Kathy. She's one person, so does, make it negative. Doesn't. Why doesn't Kathy eat? Why doesn't she eat? Look at the picture again. Why doesn't Kathy eat? All right, well, she doesn't eat because she listens to music, right? She listens to music. Look at this picture. John gets up. He goes to work. He leaves the table. He goes to the car. And now Carol is angry. Carol is angry. What's the question here? Okay, now if you said why does, that's not correct, but it's understandable. Okay? At this point, later there will be others, but at this point there was one verb, and it's the verb to be or to be. There are two different ways in which it could be expressed. The verb to be, I am, you are, he is, she is, we are, they are. That one verb does not use do or does in forming a question. You do this. Let's take, for example, in this case, Carol is. Carol is. Carol is. To make the question, it's we reverse the order of these two words, and we say, is Carol. Carol is Carol. So, why is Carol angry? Why is Carol angry is the way you form that question. What's the answer? Why is Carol angry? Look at the picture again. Right, Carol is angry because the children don't eat. The children don't eat their meal, and she prepares a good breakfast, and the children don't eat. Now, this is the only question in this whole exercise that doesn't use an interrogative. So you'll start with either do or does. Go ahead. What's the question? Okay, what is it? It's do the children listen to Carol? Do the children listen to Carol? Okay, what's the answer? Yes or no? Do the children listen to Carol? To their mother? No, they don't listen to Carol. They listen to music, they play, and they don't eat, even though Carol says, eat your breakfast. They don't listen. Okay, next picture. John goes to work. John leaves the house. And what's this question? Number 10. Okay, it's how does John go to the university? In fact, this is the best university. How does John go to the university? What's the answer? Right, he doesn't take the bus. He doesn't walk. What's he do? He takes the car. He takes the car. He goes in the car, you could say. Okay, what's the next question here? Number 11. Okay, when does John leave? When does John leave home or leave the house? We'll say the house. When does John leave the house, or at what time does John leave the house? Okay, at what time does John leave the house? What's the answer? Do you remember? Right, he leaves the house at 7:15. Look at this question really quickly here. I should say look at this picture, and now form the question. Okay, who, now, is it who help? Is it who helps? Which is it? Help, helps. Who? Okay, it's who helps the children. Now, why is it helps? When you say who, the answer might be, it could be more than one person, but the answer might be one person. And so who is considered singular. And so who, not who are, but who is. I'm sorry, not, this is the verb to help. Not who help, but who helps. Who helps the children. Okay, who helps the children? What's the answer? Is it John? Is it Carol? Is it the neighbors? Right, Carol helps the children, okay? And now we'll go through one more section, and you'll find this is a very long section. I'm not going to do all of these exercises with you. You can do them independently when you finish with this video. But let's do one more section together. Look at this picture. Okay, you see Carol and Kathy walking to school. There's Michael with his bicycle, and the baby is sleeping in the stroller. Okay, what's this question right here? This is one we haven't seen, an interrogative we have not seen so far. It's this one right here. 1 or 2? Okay, which child? I'll explain child in a second, but which? Michael or Kathy? Michael or Kathy? Which? Now I say child. You know the word children. This picture represents children, right? 2 children, 3 children, 4 children, but 1 child. That's probably a word you haven't heard so far. 1 child. So which child, Kathy or Michael, is it go or goes? Yes, it's goes because you're talking about 1 child. Which child goes to school? What's the answer? Which child goes to school? Michael or Kathy? Or maybe the baby? Right. Kathy goes to school, of course. And who goes? There we see the goes again, because who could be 1 person. Who goes to school? And this symbol right here, let's just say this picture, is with. This idea of with, next to, together with Kathy. Who goes to school with Kathy? Or at least who walks to school with Kathy? You look at this picture, yeah. Mama or Carol, Michael, and the baby walk or go to school with Kathy. Okay? And then last of all, what's this? Form this question right here about Kathy. Yeah. How Does Kathy go to school? How does Kathy go to school? What's the answer? Does she take the car? Does she take the bus? Right. Kathy walks to school. Very good. Well, this is just really the beginning of a very long section with lots of questions about the Richardson family description. And so you should now close this window with this video and study the lesson independently as you prepare for the test, the description of a part of the Richardson's family story. At the end of this lesson, there's a test where you talk for 2 minutes about the Richardsons, about a part of the story. Okay, so prepare by doing these exercises independently, and I will see you at the beginning of next class. Goodbye.